Someone is going to get retrenched today. They don't know yet. They are in a meeting right now, or eating lunch at their desk, or sitting in traffic on the way in, completely unaware that some point today, or this week, or next month, someone in the room they are not in is going to make a decision about their role. Retrenchment doesn't announce itself in advance. It arrives, at least from the outside, as a surprise. An envelope, a calendar invite with no agenda, a Friday afternoon meeting with the HR. Now, here is what 11 years inside recruitment has taught me. It's almost never actually a surprise. The signals are there, usually weeks or months before the announcement. Most people just don't know what they're looking for, and the people who do spot the signals often don't act on them in time. Because acting means admitting the possibility, and nobody wants to do that while everything still technically looks fine. I've sat across the table from hundreds of people who came to me after retrenchment, talented, experienced, mid-career professionals who were blindsided. And in almost every conversation when we talked through the months before, the signals had been there. They just hasn't been named. This video names them. The first thing to understand about retrenchment is that the people who know about it are not allowed to tell you. This is not malice. It's legal and commercial necessity. Once a decision is made, or even seriously under consideration, the company has obligation around disclosure, communication sequencing, and preventing exactly the kind of flight risk and information leak that will make an already difficult situation worse. So what happens is the people who knows behave slightly different. Not dramatically, but obviously, just slightly, and the signals are in that slight difference. The second thing to understand is that retrenchment is almost never personal, even when it feels completely personal. Companies retrench roles, not people. They look at org charts, cost centers, headcount ratios, redundant functions. A decision gets made at a level you probably don't have visibility into. And then it cascades down to the name on the employment contract. The person who hired you may have had nothing to do with the decision to let you go. The person who manages you may have found out a week before you do. The company may have genuinely liked you and the work you did, but none of that changes the outcome. What this means for you is that the signals are structural rather than personal. You are not looking for signs that your boss dislikes you. You're looking for signs that the organization is changing shape and that your function, your level, or your cost is on the wrong side of that change. Once you know what to look for, the pattern is surprisingly consistent. Signal 1. The hiring freeze. Open roles disappear from the company's job portal. Approved headcount gets quietly put on hold. A colleague leaves and nobody talks about backfilling the position. On its own, this can mean many things. Companies pause hiring for legit budget reasons that has nothing to do with retrenchment. But a hiring freeze that is accompanied by other signals on this list is worth paying attention to. The logic is simple. Companies do not generally cut hiring and expand payroll at the same time. If your company has stopped hiring, it has made a decision about the direction of its cost base. The next question is where that decision goes next. Signal 2. External consultants arrive. Specifically, strategy or management consultants, the McKinsey, BCG, Bain, etc. Sometimes they are framed as being brought in for a strategic review or a transformation project. Sometimes they are not framed at all. They just appear in rooms. I want to be precise about this. Consultants are not always a sign of retrenchment. They are sometimes brought in for growth, projects, technology transformation, market entry work. But restructuring consultants are never brought in to tell you everything is fine. When the engagement is about org design, spend control, headcount benchmarking, or cost optimization, that's a different category of project. If you're seeing consultants and you don't know exactly what they've been engaged to do, that's worth finding out. Signal 3. Communication becomes careful. Town hall gets more vague. Leadership messaging shifts from specific to principles. Words like transformation, agility, fit for purpose, evolving our structure starts appearing in places where previously there were actual numbers and actual plans. This one is subtle because Corpcom is always somewhat managed. But there's one particular register that senior leaders shift into when they are not yet able to say what they know. You can feel it if you've been around long enough. The energy in the room is different. Questions get longer answers with less information in them. If your leadership suddenly sounds like they're reading from a holding statement, they may be holding something. Signal 4. Your manager's behavior changes. This is the one that hits closest to home. Your manager starts cancelling or shortening one-on-ones. They become evasive when you ask about the future, your development, your next project, your visibility with senior leadership. They stop advocating for you in meetings you're not in. And when you bring up something that requires a medium-term commitment, a course, a budget request, a new initiative, you usually get a non-answer. Your manager may not be able to tell you what they know, but they cannot fully pretend they don't know it. That tension shows up in how they interact with you. I've heard this described many times, always in retrospect. Looking back, I realized he stopped fighting for me about 3 months before I was told. That 3 months gap is the gap this video is trying to close. Signal 5. You are asked to document your processes. This one is so clear that I'm genuinely surprised by how often people miss it. You get a request, sometimes from a manager, sometimes framed as a knowledge sharing initiative, sometimes part of a business continuity project, to write down how you do what you do, your workflow, your systems, the context you manage, the institutional knowledge that currently lives in your head. The benign version of this is the company is genuinely trying to reduce key person dependency. The less benign version is the company is trying to reduce key person dependency in prep for key person's departure. Both of those things can be simultaneously true. If you are being asked to document what only you know, someone has thought about what happens when you're not there. Signal 6. Budget disappears. Travel gets frozen. The training budget you were counting on doesn't get approved. Small perks quietly vanish. Team events stop. The expenses you used to put through without a second thought now requires 2 levels of approval. Cost cutting in discretionary budgets is often the first visible sign of a financial posture that will eventually reach headcount. Companies tighten before they cut. The tightening is the signal. Signal number 7. There's a reorganization or strategic review of your function. Reorg are not always bad. Companies need to restructure as they grow, shift strategy, or respond to market. But a reorg that changes who your team reports to, especially one that moves you to a cost center from a revenue generating function, or that suddenly puts you 2 levels further from any decision making, is worth reading carefully. The same applies if your function is being put under review. We are looking at how your department function is structured globally. It's a sentence that has preceded many retrenchments. Signal number 8. New leadership arrives with no history with your team. New CEO, regional head, brought in from outside, carries no legacy obligation to the people already here. They don't know you, don't know your track record, and they have been hired specifically to make changes. Changes they will make. This is not automatically bad for you. Sometimes new leadership needs exactly what you offer. But the appointment of external leadership is almost always followed by reshaping of team below them. And the reshaping does not favor people who were appointed by the previous regime. If your company has just hired someone senior from outside, it's worth thinking carefully about what that person's mandate is, and whether your role is part of the solution or part of the problem they've been asked to solve. Signal number 9. Your scope quietly shrink. Project get reassigned without explanation. You start being excluded from meetings you used to attend. Access to systems, data, or platform gets removed. Your name stops appearing on communication it used to appear on. This is the one that people most consistently rationalize. They probably just needed someone with more capacity. It makes sense for the team to own that now. It was just a small thing. Every one of those explanations might be true. But scope reduction is also how organizations begin to rationalize the removal of a role. If they can demonstrate that the function no longer requires your full capacity, the case for your position becomes harder to make. Pay attention to what's being taken away, not just what you're being given. Most people who see these signals do one of two things. They either dismiss them because acting on them means admitting the possibility, and admitting the possibility is uncomfortable when you still have a salary, a desk, and a title. Or they panic. They start sending desperate messages, making visible political moves, or making large decisions from a place of fear. Neither of those is the right response. The right response is to act quietly and purposefully before you need to. The first thing is to update your resume now, while you don't need to. A resume written from a position of employed stability reads differently from one written in panic at midnight after receiving news. Take the time to do it well. The second thing is to activate your network, not with a broadcast announcement that you're looking, but with the quiet coffee conversation and reconnections that keep you in people's mind. Your next role is far more likely to come through someone who knows you than through a job portal. And the third thing is to make yourself visible outside your current company. Writing, speaking, professional communication, involvement, anything that means your reputation is not entirely housed inside the walls of an organization that may be about to change. This is a longer term play, and I've made other videos specifically about this. The fourth thing and the most underused is to find out what you're entitled to, so that if the conversation does come, you're not negotiating from zero information. Understanding your notice period, your severance formula, your vesting schedules, your CPF position, these are not things to learn about for the first time on the day of the conversation. By the way, I recently built layoffsg.com. It's a layoff tracker that showcases what layoffs are happening in Singapore. Very much crowdsourced from mainstream media as well as insider information. Do check it out. Link is in the description below. If you found this useful, share it with someone who needs it, not with a caption. Just send it. And if you or someone you know is going through retrenchment right now, check out layoffsg.com. Subscribe for more and see you in the next video.